And I'll be happy to even request him to even share how did this F1C came. Does he have any connection with Formula One? And he's going to talk to us about finding a top coach for CEO. So while I see here a lot of expert coaches and facilitators sitting here, there are people from HR and business also. So probably his inputs will help them to decide to pick up the right coach for their CEO. So over to you.
All right, so while they're loading this presentation, my name is Bjorn, not John, but you can call me John if you like. Bjorn is a good Indian name, right? Yes? No? Where's this name from, Bjorn?
Sweden.
Sweden? Very good. Sweden, Norway, Denmark, right? What does it mean?
John.
John means John, yeah. No, close, right? It means bear. Bear, right? So if you don't know how to say my name, because people mispronounce my name in all kinds of funny ways, right? They call me Bjorn, John, Jorn, Bjorn. The worst one is when they call me Bjorny. So you can call me Bear if you like. That'll do. Bjorny you like. Good. I'm sure you're not alone. So we're about to start the presentation, and yeah, I want to talk about CEO coaching, right? And in general, high-level coaching and leadership. No? So if you know how to, okay. Great. So I'm the author of a book. Maybe Roger, you can lift it up. It's actually right there on the table. It's called Develop Exponential Power. And the book, by the way, this is me at age 1, right here, right? So my first time eating chocolate. Do you recognize me?
It was a beard. It's not a beard.
You thought it was a beard at age 1? No, Mr. Mary, I'm still looking forward to looking like you growing a beard. So this is me at age 2.
Wow.
Yes. But, yeah, and I'm pretty tall, right? Maybe not for India, but how tall do you think I am? I always have to get this out of the way because people are making bets in the background.
6'3".
6.5? 6'3".
6'5".
6'5", 6'7",
6'8", 6'8".
6'8". Who said 6'8"?
Raju.
Oh, Roger, because he knew already. So let's give Raju a hand. Raju, very good. By the way, 6'8" also equates to 5 foot 20 inches, right?
20 inches? You're 6'8".
Or 203 centimeters. No? So I was a little shorter here still. No? I have 4 kids. I'm married to a Filipina, and I live in the Philippines for the last almost 14 years. Good. So coaching is one of the most effective ways of developing people, but it's not the most popular. It's the 3rd most effective according to this study in 2015. No? So I wrote this book called Develop Exponential Power. To give you a little context. Yeah? Now, there's a lot of books on power on the market, right? Who has read books on power here? Thank you for being authentic, yes? Usually it's like a closet thing. We read about it, but we don't talk about it, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of books on power, and I also read them. 48 Laws of Power, and da-da-da-da-da. So you read these books, but then I didn't feel well about it. Yeah, by the way, forgive me for my voice, right? I usually don't talk like this. But my throat's a little sore.
Sounds hard.
And so I didn't feel well about reading these books, and what I read there, I couldn't sleep right. And I was like, why is that I don't feel well after reading about power? Something just didn't sit. And so I asked myself, what is it really that I was reading about? And I realized what I was reading about was about deception. And it was about trickery. And it was about manipulation. And it was about cheating people. Yeah? And I was like, wow, that's power? Really? Can that be? Yeah? Who else doesn't feel well about that?
I didn't
Yeah?
like this book, which was written in 48 Laws
You never liked what?
Many of the things written in it,
Yeah, you didn't like it, right?
it doesn't align with what.
It doesn't align, right? Especially for us as coaches, you know? It doesn't align. So I was like, in the space of inquiry, so is this really power? And it wasn't to me.
Deceitful, it looks deceitful.
Pardon me?
It feels that you're deceiving the other people and being powerful. The first thing was, there was one thing it said, keep your enemy the closest to you.
It's also manipulation, right?
Yes, that's what it is.
So I asked myself then, if that's not power, what is it? Yeah, and I kept asking myself, what's this all about? Yeah. And I discovered that the world at large was confused about power. You know? Because what the world writes about, that supposedly power is, wasn't power at all. It was force. It's this thing I call force. Yeah, and how do I know the world's confused? Because we talk about things like positional power. But is position really power? Or is it something else? We talk about, may the force be with you. But do we really mean the force? Or do we mean something else? Yeah, so let me ask one volunteer question. If I force you to do something, Rajani, yes? Rajani. If I force you to do something, Rajani, are you gonna like it? If I force you, are you gonna like it? No. Right. If I force her, she's not gonna like it. Are you gonna wake up in the morning going, yay, I can't wait to do this thing Bjorn's forcing me to do? Are you? No. Right? Are you gonna go through your day excited and chipper and yay, I'm so happy to do what he's forcing me to do? Are you? No. Right? That's what happens to your energy when I'm forcing you. Does it go up or down? It goes down, right? Her hand goes like, yeah, energy goes down when we force people. And so we discovered that force was a reduction of energy. You know? And in extreme cases, extreme force turned into first sickness, and then murder, and then war. Yeah, in extreme cases. Now, what was power then? If force was a reduction of energy. So we said, well, maybe power is the opposite. Power is an increase of energy. Yeah? And so we wrote a book. I wrote a book about 28 ways of increasing energy. Yeah? For yourself and for others. Yeah? And that became the distinction, because we now saw that true power was only energy, or was energy, not only, but true power is energy. And the distinction is, the difference is that with force, the energy goes down, and with true power, the energy goes up. Yeah? And in today's world, they call it the VUCA world, but I'm already tired of this word VUCA. I can't hear it anymore. To me, it's just a new normal. We are in an up and down world. Things are changing all the time. Yeah, it's kind of like, let's stop making it wrong. It's just like being on a dance floor and things change and shift. Yeah, it's changing all the time. It's not VUCA, it's the new normal. And it's not going to stop anytime soon. Yeah, we have to stop wishing for it to go back. So, with power being energy, when we realize that, and we realize that in today's world, where we always have to do more and more and more, but with less and less and less, can we truly afford to have leaders that reduce the energy of the people? Can we afford that? We cannot, right? Because to get more out of a situation, we have to increase the energy. we have to lift it up, multiply it, yeah, and find ways for these energies to multiply each other. And that's why the book is called Exponential Power, because there's ways of multiplying it, you know, not just increasing it. So that's the context. Yeah. So that's the book. It was recommended by Marshall Goldsmith. We don't have time to talk about it. Please take a glance. This is why CEOs seek out executive coaches. It really is lonely at the top. There's nobody who understands you. Other CEOs can be just as lost as you are. Right? So you're laughing. You probably know about this, right? Nobody you know might be an expert at leading, and you cannot necessarily trust what others say about you, because they just want to gain your favor, right? And you may not be up to date on the latest in leadership. Leadership is something that's evolving. It's not static. The science is continuously growing. Yeah? And so you may not be up to date. And what you learned in your MBA or your doctoral course may be already outdated. Yeah? So it helps to learn who've been through a lot, and everyone may just want to say what you want to hear, right? Maybe you need some help with conflict resolution. And the pressure is great to deliver again and again, no matter what the market conditions, yeah? So in sports, however, only the pros have coaches. Yeah, but we don't see it the same way when we're executives, because we might look bad having a coach, right? So there's for example, in the US, there's a big difference between East Coast and the West Coast perception of coaching. On the East Coast, they say, what do you mean you give me an executive coach? Is there something wrong with me? Yeah? On the West Coast, very different. They say, what do you mean I don't get a coach? Is there something wrong with me? Yeah, because anybody who's someone will have a coach. Why don't you give me one? Yeah? I deserve a coach. I am someone. No? So, how do you find the top coach? No? The same coaching skills that may apply for mid-level don't apply for top level necessarily. Yeah? It takes more confidence, it takes more experience, it takes more inner power and confidence. The higher up you go and coach on the corporate ladder. Yeah? The higher you coach an organization, the less you coach on motivation. Why? Because they already are motivated. Yeah? But the lower you go, the more motivation is usually needed. No? However, you coach on how to motivate others. Right? That's what you coach on. So the higher you go, the more you need to know about leadership. What is it? And ideally, you know about the cutting edge of leadership, because your client may not have the time to read the books that they should be reading. So they're expecting you to have read those books. And they're expecting you to have taken those classes that they should be taking. Yeah? And then give them the shortcuts, because they don't have the time. Yeah? So working knowledge of different areas, right? It's almost good to be a guru, and I know Will may not necessarily agree with that, but it helps to be a guru because that you're somebody to go to. They don't have time to ask questions about one topic over the next hour or 2 or 3 or 4. No, they want to cover 6 topics or 7 topics in 1 hour. Yeah? And it doesn't mean that we tell them what to do, but we can provide them with the frameworks that help them make decisions quickly, yeah, intelligibly. That makes sense. Frameworks. That's the access to quick coaching. The higher the coach coaches, the more they need to be guru. Okay, got it. So the higher you go, the more you also need to become a mentor, because you teach them the frameworks. Yeah, not what to do, There's a big difference between telling them what to do and teaching them how it works, right? The workings behind things. So I'll give you some examples. So we call it mentoring and coaching, where a coach has both roles. Yeah? And it may not sit well with the ICF, which by its nature is more geared towards life coaching anyways, right? Okay, good. So top level coach must have read books and courses. We've done that. You should have had a wide range of experiences. And ideally, if you're really a top level coach, you're involved in the research. You help take what's commonly known as leadership to the next level. Yeah? So, warning, if you're only looking for single or low double-digit growth, this may not be for you. Now, here's 4 enemies, for example. This is one framework. Now, 4 enemies that any human being, especially executives, will go through. The first level of enemy is called fear. Now, most people, even executives, they never ever overcome that level of enemy. Yeah? It takes their whole lifetime, and they're still driven by fear. Now, this is just enemy number 1. But there's other enemies, and you'll see that in many executives, right? The next level is force. Sometimes confused with power. They use force to get their way. There's a space in between disempowerment and empowerment. And that place is called anger or force, right? For people, they're still in a disempowered state somewhat. They're still scared. They're still fearful. And so they go against their own fear and use force to go against their own fear. And because they go against their own fear and use force against themselves, they now use the same force on others as well. Yeah? Does this make sense? Only when we overcome having to be forceful with ourselves can we also stop being forceful with others. Yeah? Then certainty is another enemy. It sounds like a friend when you're in a stage of fear, right? I'd love to have certainty because I'm so scared. But once you get there, you no longer have the fear. You've overcome force. Now you're in certainty because you think you know everything. But when you know everything, learning stops. Yeah? And when you stop learning, you start dying. Then of course, old age is the last of our enemies, and that enemy we can only overcome temporarily. Does this make sense? Okay, good. So then there are also levels of leadership. This is another framework. What is leadership? The first thing we have to learn is to lead what? What's the first thing we have to learn to lead? Ourselves, right? Often overlooked. Many people think they can be leaders without leading themselves. But can you truly be a leader for others if you cannot lead yourself? Would you be credible as a leader? No, right? Because we would be seen as not walking the talk. Look at this guy, he's pretending. He wants us to do what he cannot. Or she wants us to do what she cannot. So there's levels. First level of leadership is leading nobody. It's like no leadership. Management falls into that category. By the way, management, does it fall into force or power? Where does management fall into? Force, that's right. It falls into the category of force. And that is why my prediction is for the future, the word manager and the word management will become bad expressions. They will not want to be used anymore because it's a much lower level of existence. And it uses force to get its way, and we can no longer afford that. In a world where we need to accomplish more with less. But force is still at work throughout the world. You see it everywhere, right? And some are now predicting the next world war already. And that's something that inspires me about the work I do, because I see the lack of this knowledge in so many of our leaders around the world. Yeah? If they just knew the difference between force and power, if we can just stop this confusion. You know, if every one of us can become a leader through power and not through force, we can change the world, truly. We can.
Woo.
Yeah? I'm sorry this makes you on. So,